Welcome to Identity Unboxed, where we provide mentorship and promote representation for Black professionals in the advancement of the Black community.
We are seeking guidance from exceptional Black leaders, scholars, and professionals with expertise in their respective fields.
We hope to foster a space that promotes authenticity, inclusivity, and restoration for our listeners while exploring the intersection of our personal and professional lives.
This project is a culmination of our lived experiences as young Black professionals to transform our life trajectories to overcome adversity and reach triumph.
Our intention is to inspire you on your path to discovering your purpose. Thank you so much for tuning into Identity Unboxed, a space curated to amplify Black voices, foster authenticity, and provide mentorship and representation for those within our community. Throughout Season 1, we have been able to uncover the beauty, depth, and complexity within our identities, exploring our relation to Blackness and paying homage to those that paved the way for us. This project has shown us the strength in community and how each of our stories hold a unique quality with the potential to impact all those we share them with. We invite our listeners to reflect on Season 1 as each of our guests shares the significance of their Blackness and how it has influenced how they choose to show up in the world. You will hear from Leilani Lewis, J. Martin Jr., Dr. Maya Angela Smith, Dr. Karen Johnson, Marcus Harrison Green, Regina Malveaux, Paula Wally, Ephraim Fasaha, Rico Kiddingdongo, Crystal Langhorn, Erica White, Avery Barnes, Samuel Arievi, and Jalen McMillan. We look forward to continuing to share stories that uplift our community and demonstrate that by foregrounding our successes, we can empower others to relentlessly pursue their aspirations. We will return for Season 2 this fall. You can stay up to date with the latest updates about the project by following us on Instagram at Identity Unboxed and also submit nominations for future guests. For now, we ask our guests to reflect on the question, what does Blackness mean to you?
I said, like Baldwin really said it best. I mean, all the beauty and the rage and the pain, all mixed together in the hue of our skin, but it does not, I believe, Blackness stands on its own and not in relation to what we've experienced in this country. We could just be ourselves in that identity. I don't know what it means to, I can never ever speak on the spectrum but I can, for me, know that my Blackness is bigger than what my experiences are in relation to my identity. It is bigger than the racism that is pervasive and institutional. It is bigger than the laws that are moving forward. It is bigger than any of the hate and vitriol that we experience. It's bigger than anti-Blackness. And that my expression of it is true and blessed, and I cannot. The more I can express that, the more I can hold space for others to express that too. But it is bigger. I won't relate my Blackness to white supremacy. White supremacy is on its own monster. But I am Black beyond these sort of the country and the institution that has oppressed this identity.
You know, I got my grandma would say, Blackness is everything. It's everything. I think also Blackness is also owning it. Like I said, to be honest with you, I grew up predominantly around white people, and so I lived up north, and so my parents didn't really on purpose really introduced me around a lot of like our people. So I really didn't know of Black excellence. I didn't know of like Black owned businesses and all of that stuff because everything was white. even down to when I went to a Christian school, I was like the only Black kid, that went to the school. And so fast forward, it is so awesome that people in my line of business, or not in my line of business, but they're succeeding and they're Black. And there's so many untold stories, and it's excellent. And so I think a part of Blackness is just surrounding yourself around the excellence of who we are as a people. We have so much to offer. And I think that it is so important to own who you are as an individual. Finally, for myself, I did that. In 2018, I began to own it. It's almost like, yes, I deserve to have a seat at this table.
Yeah.
And own this seat, and I'm going to present it, whatever I have to say, and I'm going to walk away feeling good. Yeah. And so I think that's what I try to do in all of the things. And I think that's something to me with Blackness is just really owning it, supporting your brothers and sisters, supporting those that are out there, even down to my glasses. It's by a Black-owned business. And so I'm just so grateful. But I think one of the things is like, own it and be excellent.
I see Blackness, just like any racial identity, as something that society creates and lives out, right? So it's something that can be transformed and that can evolve and can even be destroyed. As Howard Omi and Michael Winan have argued, they have a book on racial formation, right? And so Blackness is historically and socially constructed, and it's context dependent. So, for instance, in the U.S., notions of Blackness have emerged from racial ideologies that have linked Blackness to enslavement, servitude, inferiority. And in my own research, I see how Senegalese people who grow up in Senegal are made aware of their Blackness when they arrive in the U.S. or in France or in Italy. And these are all places that have their own historical baggage around race and which manifests in various ways in the present day. And that's not to say that the people I've interviewed who grew up in Senegal were not aware of their Blackness beforehand. So colonialism, neocolonialism, they all have devastating effects and sort of influence how people understand race. But most of the people that I interviewed did not think about Blackness on a daily basis beforehand. And so their understandings of Blackness evolve when they migrate and must contend with the outside world, constantly reminding them that they are Black. And so for someone like myself, who has grown up with this constant reminder, its meaning is complex, right? So when you live in a society that's addicted to white supremacy, you're taught to see Blackness through a deficit or a deficiency lens. But to me, Blackness is amazing because it tells a story of unwavering resolve, of moving forward when the world tries to hold you back, of finding joy in hostile terrain, of being unapologetically yourself when others try to convince you that you're not enough. So for me, Blackness is strength, it's courage, it's beauty, it's growth. And it's something that it's part of me. And so I like it for what it is.
That's interesting. Personally, what Blackness means to me is I'm an image bearer because I'm made in the image and likeness of God. So that's what that means to me. Now, professionally, though, Blackness, especially anti-Blackness, is critical. You've got to dismantle, get rid of anti-Blackness mentalities, actions, behaviors to even get to equity. We can never get to equity ensuring that everyone has what they need to succeed, meaning that those who have been held back require reparations a little bit more than those who do not. You have to first deal with anti-Blackness. This is professionally now. And what that word means, it's code for racism, for dehumanization, vilification, criminalization of Black people, which has led to what we now call the new Jim Crow, although I would argue that Jim Crow never left, but be that as may. In this age of mass incarceration, Michelle Alexander wrote a book about that. And so anti-Blackness means really divesting ourselves of that whole mindset and that mentality societally, but it also starts individually. And I, for the record, just want to call out, just remind everyone, race is a social construct.
Yep.
It's used to oppress people based on a skin color. Again, this is about skin color. This is really about greed, power, and control. Let's not get it twisted. We throw up a skin color as a smoke and mirror, or gender, or whatever. No, this is about greed, power, and control. Male dominant culture, male toxicity, patriarchy. Women, Black people, the Constitution, we're considered property. And in 21st century, we're here to say we're not property. We may be God's property, but we're not your property. And you don't own us. You can't buy us. We have a right to be here, and we're going to show up, stand up, and speak up. And that's what Blackness means to me. I am an image bearer. I am operating in power, creativity. I'm in the image and likeness of God. And Blackness also, by the way, therefore, that is not a monolith. It is going to mean different things to different people.
Yeah. I think, certainly for me, as it relates to kind of how I move through the world, I look at it, I don't want to say an encounter to whiteness, but certainly because it is its own thing, and I don't want it to, I don't want it to come across as it's, that it can't exist individually. But I will say that, for me, where, whiteness is very much rugged individualism and sort of, commodification and atomization and competition. I look at Blackness as collaboration and, camaraderie and, a seeking of joy in life versus a seeking of extraction. And, it's a seeking of fulfillment. Where I think, whiteness is, attempting to be a measure of success. I think I look at Blackness as a measure of significance. How are we moving through life? Who have our lives touched? I also see, Blackness as evolution, the realization that we're not, static people, right? It's kind of like, sort of the metaphor of wine, right? If you open it up today and taste it, it'll taste different than any other day. I look at us in that way, in terms of Blackness, that, as wonderful as we all, the trio of us are, today, tomorrow will be, just slightly different, hopefully, right? We'll have known more than we did the previous day. We'll have had a different experience that maybe a process we've, that has influenced us in some way. And so I think it's a constant level of, evolution and growth. And also, I think where, whiteness is frenzy, I look at Blackness as the ability to have, calm and stillness and, intentionality over time. And that we're not just here to, eat, produce, consume, and die, but we're here for so much more in terms of an exploration of, the heights of life and, the heights of relationship, that we're truly here, and, with purpose-driven lives, as opposed to simply just to, they'll be consumers on this world, but to also be stewards of this world. So yeah, that's what Blackness is to me.
My father's family is originally from New Orleans. My mother's family, by way of South Dakota and Sweden. I am a Southern California girl, but both of my parents were born in Casper, Wyoming. feel like there's a total of 5 Black people. And while I was born and in Southern California, my parents moved back to Wyoming early in my elementary school years, and this was in the early 70s. And Casper, Wyoming is a very, very, very difficult place to be a little Black girl with an afro in the early 70s, right? And it wasn't until high school when I had the opportunity to go down south and visit family who worked at a historically Black university that, it's almost like my identity shifted overnight. I went from literally having to often fight physical battles in the inward and just constant erosion of my sense of self to being in this environment at Oakwood College and Oakwood Academy, where, I was fully embraced and affirmed for, who I was. And it was just this transformative experience. And so I often have said, I just don't even know who I'd be had I not had that opportunity. But, there also is this moment, I think that, many people who attend primarily white institutions growing up or live in communities where they are the only. I know that, Tiana and Brad, we talked a little bit about, being the only or one of a few Black students in all white schools. And there's a great book, which you probably know, Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting at the Same Table in the Cafeteria, that really speaks to that issue. But, there can be this issue of, white folks saying you're not one of us. And then occasionally in some Black communities, Black folks saying, well, you're not really one of us. And while I did not encounter that, with the exception of just, a couple of folks, what I did really come to realize is that, I'm really proud of who I am and all of my Blackness, right? And there is no one way to be Black. We know that the Black community is not a monolith. And I think a lot of people early in their life and early in their career struggle with that. And so I think I wanted to start with that because I think it's just so important to know that, the only person you have to be is you. And whatever version of Black you are is the right version, right? And none of us have to try to be like anyone else.
No, I saw this question and I was drooling over it. So I have this one is unique. My parents are immigrants from Africa, so, and my dad worked in the diplomatic service. So he had this great job for the Kenyan government. He worked, that's where we're from. And we got to, I guess gallivant around the world when I was a young kid. Didn't know how good we had it. We hated every minute of it because we were always traveling. We never could plan to have friends for long and that kind of thing. So when you reflect back on your journey, here's the thing that I always remember, because this is the 70s, early 80s. And most of the places we went, it was, my classes were small because you were in bougie schools, that kind of thing. It was a diplomatic service and that kind of thing. But the thing about it was, most of the pictures I have, you were often the only Black kid, or we were often the only Black family in, a lot of these spaces. And, kids can be mean and those kind of things. And, you grow up just dealing with that and learning how to code switch a lot, learning how to do different things to fit in and to get along, and whatever trauma is associated with that is also dealing with that. But, what Blackness means to me today, especially, is just a pride of who I am, who my family is, where I am, where we ended up, and how, especially the word I say is we endured. It's just that perseverance and endurance. And I often tell my wife friends that it's like, you do know we have no limits to endurance. But, there's just none.
It's who I am. It's where I find a lot of pride, and it's where I find a lot of love. And so, if I think about, my journey and my Blackness, when I first arrived here, because I was born in Saudi Arabia, came here when I was 5, and when I started going to school, probably like about like, I don't know, it's like 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, early days. It was like, oh, you're African, African booty scratcher, like it'd be a whole bunch of derogatory things, like, like dang, okay, like, because I'm from Africa. And so then it's like, all right, well, what makes, like, I'm a kid, I'm learning, about my Africanness, my Blackness. And then I'm like, my dad, you know, telling me that, like, hey, like, you need to learn your language, and, you need to be able to speak it. And even then, not being like, all excited to do so, but, doing it because it's, you're being told to. And then, kind of getting to like my middle school, high school days, and, we're going to like Black Achievers at the YMCA in the Central District, and, we're, doing, taking classes on, Eritrean, like, language and how to write and read. And, my family also, just telling us about, what it was like on the continent, what it was like in the village, and, hyping it up to the point where it's like, man, this sounds like, like Disneyland, like this place sounds incredible, but, it's just the village in East Africa. And so there's like this like buildup that's happened, like there's a foundation being built. And then by the time, like, I mean, I'm in college, like, I'm really like diving into it. I'm learning about Malcolm X, and I mean, I can't put his material down, and, more awareness, more, observant of the things that are going on around me. I went to WSU for my undergrad, and so I was in Pullman, a little, deep out there. And so you experience different things as well. But all it did was just like pull me further in, So by the time I got out of school, truly, I was already thinking in my mind, like, how do I connect Africa and here where I grew up, How do I build that, I want to go back there. I want to go back to Africa, spend some time there. I want to do something here in my community because this is where I grew up. I love it here, but I also know that there's others like myself that need this, And so how do I create that bridge? And, until I got to take that break in 2011 and spend that time, on the continent for that long, where I did get to appreciate, why, I learned my language, why I speak Tigrinya or understand Amharic, like, and what the beauty is of the continent, the languages and the history, the deep history, the rich history, led me to then opening up a business that's based on, supporting, African farmers and providing community in my space here locally. So it's been a building up of things over the years that has, brought me to this place of like, it's everything to me, it's honestly all my joy. It's what I find so much satisfaction in doing, is in celebrating my Blackness. And so, yeah, I mean, I feel very fortunate. I'm very grateful.
I think that has changed for me over time. Growing up in white suburbia, I was very self-conscious of being a Black person. And in undergraduate at Washington University in St. Louis, I so often felt alone as a Black person. So, and, but now, I feel empowered, right? I think being Black for me means having a responsibility to acknowledge the sacrifices of all the Black people and Black family that laid the groundwork before me that I benefit from today. Like I have privilege, right? Like I have a home to live in. I have this job. I have two healthy teenagers. I have privilege. It doesn't it doesn't mean that I don't deserve those things, but it does mean that like with privilege comes responsibility. And I hope that like in how I live my life and in the work that I do, that I am able to be a mentor for other Black students that like, I mean, being totally selfish, that want to get into built environment and become architects and engineers and like urban planners and like shape like what our built environment and our communities and neighborhoods look like, which frankly is about representation. Like I think that if you make a space that is welcoming for Black families, you're making a space that's welcoming for all families, right? And so I think for me, Blackness is about a quest. Like I am on a quest for betterment. I'm on a quest for justifying the pain and loss that so many others have had to suffer. Like if there has been so much pain and there is still so much pain, what is it that I can do to try to make things better? And I'm just one person, right? So like I need to be a part of a tribe, like all of us, like doing our part in these things. And I guess that's part of being Black too. Like we are all part of a family. And I feel that, like I it's not always easy with family. But important, and we will always be family together.
Yeah, culturally I was raised a little bit different. But the communities I grew up in were all Black. So I know I always tell, like, sometimes I even said some Black and brown immigrants, they look at Black Americans differently, like, which is not okay. They have this anti-Blackness that have been put in people's head, or anti-American Blackness. And that's not okay. I feel like, and that's, to me, is not understanding because what I would say Black Americans have gone through in this country. I think sometimes Black immigrants don't understand that either. And I think this is where like people need to have empathy. People need to understand how these cultural differences have come about. Sometimes it's hard for me to explain.
No, I feel like I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think you can't look at you can't look at, and it's we're different, but we're all Black, and we there's this, I don't know, it's this Blackness. Like, I love being Black. Like, I don't that's why I'm like, I'm an immigrant, but I'm a child of immigrants, but like I am Black. Like, I know there's some people who feel differently, but I don't feel like that. It's given me a very different perspective on the way I see things. And because I understand what, like I always say, like with Black, like if you've been, you're for 12 generations, your family has been discriminated against, oppressed with, like, I don't know, Blackness is complicated. It's amazing. It's like I always say, when people talk about it on social media, I would never change. Like, I love being a Black woman. I love what it represents. I love culturally, like when I see, like if I'm in a room full of white people and there's another Black person, I give them a head nod. Like, that's, to me, is just kind of like, I don't know how to, Blackness is, I don't know if I can articulate it. It's
Blackness, to define your Blackness. You define your Blackness by what you do, right? And how you present yourself. So, because I'm Black, I'm presenting in this body, but my energy and who I am is bigger than my Blackness. I'm just a Black woman, and my spirit is big. My spirit don't have no color. It just doesn't. Like, I tap into that part that's just like, okay, I chose you to be the expression that I want to express. I chose you. Okay, so I'm Black. And my spirit's like, well, I ain't. So stay true to you. I don't care what color you are. Stay true to what your spirit is showing you. Like, take some time to tap into you. You know, I get up in the morning and I'll be like, man, you're pretty fly. I'm like, damn right. Damn right. I won't want to be nobody else but me.
I would love to share. The kind of summarizing, all of the areas, I wrote it down. So Blackness, it's strength. Hold on, let me change my tone. It's strength. It is art. It's tribal. It's being a descendant of the African warriors in our ancestry. Like, our blood comes from warriors chasing down lions with spears and, living amongst in completely immersed in wildlife and, just, and how our culture has evolutionized through music, fashion, and hair. That's what Blackness means to me.
Blackness is Sam Aribula Toby. That's what Blackness means to me. It's just being the name I was given, being the place I'm from, representing where I'm from, and being able to bring my culture out into the world and let the world know, like, my place is a beautiful place. It was being created by our Lord Almighty, and if you come in there, it's a piece of, like, you're gonna have fun. People know Nigeria, like, even Better Sweden said it herself. She said, when I was in Nigeria, I was having fun. She said that. She said, I was having fun when I was in Nigeria. I don't know. My friends kept going out, and I was like, again? I was like, Like, yeah, blackness to me means me being me and shooking into the world. Like, I'm from a place where anyone and everyone is welcome. And regardless of where you from and everything, you are welcome. And I would try my best and do everything I can to always make sure you feel comfortable. So for me, blackness means Samuel Aribu Watoli from Lagos, Nigeria, West Africa.
I think it means just embracing your culture and understanding that you are you are and to fall in love with yourself. I fell in love with myself over the years just because of who I surrounded myself with. And I appreciate, everything that comes with it. I love, as you see my braids, I love my braids. I love, the food we cook. I mean, I feel like the food we cook better than the other stuff. But yeah, when it comes to blackness, it's all about just embracing yourself and embracing your identity. I feel like there's no reason to be afraid or no reason to question yourself at all. I feel like everybody want to be us when it comes to that.
We are so grateful for your support, and thank you for listening to Identity Unboxed.
Authenticity is your guide to cast an impact on the world that you will be proud of. Signing off with pride, Tiana
and Brad.
Thank you so much.